April 1945, pre-dawn, northern Germany, near Bart. The barbed wire of Starlock Luftei glitzed faintly in the gray light. First, Lieutenant Robert A. Bob Hoover, a 22-year-old fighter pilot imprisoned for over a year, crouches with two companions. A staged fight erupts near the gate. Shouts, blows, guards rushing in. In the chaos, Hoover sprints, leaps the fence. Barb's tearing his hands and legs and vanishes into the pines. He reaches an abandoned Luftwaffe airfield. Engine recently run, propeller clean, no parachute, cockpit instruments. In German, Hoover climbs in, starts the BMW 801 radio. It coughs, smokes, then roars. He taxis, lifts off into the murk, banks west toward Allied lines in Holland. The swastika on wings and tail marks him enemy. Below, American and British anti-aircraft batteries scan. Tracers rise immediately. .50 caliber streams, 40mm shells bursting close. P-51s or Spitfires could appear. Guns ready to shred the German fighter. How does a POW steal an enemy fighter he has never flown? Take off without a parachute and survive a flight where his own side, his own base defenses, tries to shoot him down. This is the desperate, nerve-shredding escape of Bob Hoover, a pilot who turned captivity into flight and flight into a gauntlet of friendly fire. To understand the stakes, consider the air war and POW situation in Europe by April 1945. The U.S. Army Air Force's 52nd Fighter Group flew Spitfire MKVRs and later P-51 Mustangs on long-range escort missions. On February 9, 1944, during his 59th mission, Hoover was shot down over southern France. His Spitfire hit by ground fire or fighters. A bailed out was captured and sent to Starlock Luftei near Bart on the Baltic coast, a camp for Allied airmen with thousands of American and British prisoners. Conditions were harsh. Limited food, cold barracks, constant guards. Escapes were frequent but risky. Tunnels discovered. Wire cuts failed. By April 1945, the Allies advanced rapidly from the west, Soviets from the east. The camp remained intact, but guards were tense. Hoover, a skilled pilot from Tennessee, refused to wait for liberation. He planned carefully. Distraction riot to draw guards, breach the fence, reach the nearby abandoned airfield. The airfield held evacuated aircraft, including radial engine, fighters with 1,700 to 2,100 horsepower, BMW 801 engines, top speed over 400 miles per hour, armed with 30mm machine guns and 20mm cannons. Hoover had fought them but never flown one. No parachute meant a clean takeoff and landing were critical. Flying west risked every Allied gun and fighter. Anti-aircraft, batteries 40mm, Bofors, .50, dash-cal quad mounts, P-47s, P-51s. On patrol, German markings triggered instant response. Identification failures common. The escape mattered because posts faced uncertain fates as fronts closed. Forced marches, massacre risks. Hoover's flight carried him through contested airspace, evading both German remnants and Allied fire. Landing in Holland allowed debriefing and return to duty. His skill later made him a legendary test pilot and airshow performer. This incident highlights POW escape risks, not just guards, but the greater danger of friendly fire in confused skies. Hoover survived where most would not. April 1945, approximately 4:30 a.m. Stalag Luft, Bart, northern Germany. The camp compound is dark, lit only by occasional searchlight sweeps and the dim glow of barracks windows. First, Lieutenant Robert A. Bob Hoover, waits in the shadows of Barrack 104. Pull steady, despite the risk. He has rehearsed this 4 weeks. Observe guard patterns. Note weak spots in the fence. Recruit to fellow prisoners willing to create chaos, but not to follow him over the wire. At the signal, the distraction begins. 2 men step outside, voices rising in a staged argument that quickly turns physical. Fists flying, shouts echoing across the compound. Fight! Fight! Guards blow whistles. Boots pound gravel. As sentries rush toward the gate, spotlights swing away from the far perimeter. Hoover moves. Low and fast. Coat buttoned tight. He crosses the open ground. He reaches the double barbed wire fence, 10 feet high, coiled razor wire on top. No cutters, no time. He wraps his hands in torn rags, grips the wire, climbs hand over hand. Barbs tear skin, rip clothing, draw blood from palms and thighs. Ignores it, hauls himself over the top, drops to the frozen ground outside. He rolls, springs up, runs into the pine trees without looking back. He moves through the woods, staying off paths, guided by memory of the layout. After 15 minutes, he breaks the tree line and sees the abandoned Luftwaffe airfield. Hangars stand empty. Aircraft parked in scattered rows under frayed camouflage netting. No patrols, no lights. The Germans have withdrawn as Soviet forces close from the east. Hoover scans the line. His eyes settle on a single Focke-Wulf, Ifedoble 190, one of the Luftwaffe's most capable fighters. The BMW 800 114-cylinder radio engine sits under a broad cowling, propeller clean. Fuel tank showing full on the gauge, visible through the canopy. No parachute strapped to the seat. None available. The cockpit is narrow. Instruments labeled in German. But he has studied enemy aircraft recognition charts for years. He climbs the wing root, swings a leg over, drops into the seat. The harness is unbuckled. He leaves it loose. Master switch on. Fuel selector 2. Main tank, mixture rich. Throttle cracked open. He finds the starter button by feel, presses it. The radio coughs, once, twice, then erupts in a cloud of blue smoke and deafening roar. The propeller spins into a shimmering disc. The entire airframe vibrates, shaking loose dust from the canopy. He releases the brakes, taxis out between parked wrecks. The runway is cracked concrete, weeds pushing through joints. He lines up, opens the throttle wide. The FW-190 surges forward. Tail lifts smoothly. Wheels leave the ground. He retracts gear, stays low, 50 feet above the pines, and turns west toward Allied lines. Within minutes, he crosses into recently liberated territory. Below, roads fill with Allied trucks, tanks, infantry columns. Anti-aircraft positions track the sky. The black crosses and swastika and wings and tail are impossible to miss. Tracers rise immediately. Bright streams of .50 caliber fire from quad mounts on 40 millimeters. Boffer shells burst in black puffs, close enough to rattle the canopy. Shrapnel pings off the armored seat back. Hoover jinks hard, drops even lower, skims fields and rivers. A pair of P-51 Mustangs appears on his 9 o'clock, diving to intercept. Their 6.50 caliber Brownings flash. Tracers streak past the cockpit, stitching holes in the right wing. Fuel begins leaking, a thin mist trailing behind. He rocks the wings violently, trying to signal, but the German silhouette overrides everything. He dives into a shallow valley, pulls up sharply over a ridgeline, uses terrain to break their aim. The Mustangs overshoot, momentarily lose sight. Precis on. The BMW 801 runs rough. Now, perhaps, dust in the carburetor. Perhaps, damage from the fire. Oil, pressure, flickers. After nearly 2 hours airborne, the Dutch coast appears ahead. Flat fields, windmills, recently cleared Allied airstrips. He spots a grass emergency landing strip near Groningen. Short, rough, but open. He circles once, drops flaps, lowers gear. The FW-190 touches down firmly, bounces, rolls through wet grass, slows, stops. Infantry rush forward, rifles leveled. Hoover kills the engine, raises both hands high through the open canopy. American pilot. POW. Escape. He shouts. A sergeant approaches cautiously, sees the dog tags, the US flight jacket beneath the coat. Rifles lower. Hoover climbs down, legs unsteady from the flight and blood loss from wire cuts. The stolen fighter stands behind him, riddled with friendly fire holes, swastika still bold on the tail. In the low skies over northern Holland, Hoover has escaped the camp, stolen the plane, taken off, but freedom remains out of reach. Every Allied weapon below sees only an enemy FW-190 flying at treetop height. German markings clear in the morning light. Ground fire opens immediately. Quad .50 caliber mounts rake the sky. Tracers converging on the fighter. 40mm shells detonate in sharp clusters. One bursts close enough to shower the canopy with fragments. The aircraft shudders. Hoover drops lower, skims rooftops and hedgerows, uses speed and terrain to spoil aim. The BMW 801 strains, exhaust stacks glowing red. Then the fighters arrive. Two P-51 Mustangs dive from above. Closing fast, their guns flash. 6.50 caliber Brownings each. 3,000 rounds per minute combined. Bullets punch through the right wing, tear the fuselage. Fuel streams out in a visible trail. A round clips the canopy. Spiderwebbing glass near his head. Hoover ducks, shoves the stick forward, dives into a river valley. He pulls up hard over a tree line. The J-forces pressing him into the seat. The Mustangs overshoot, momentarily lose sight. He knows he cannot fight back. The FW-190's cannons are loaded, but he will not fire on his own side. He rocks the wings again and again. The universal distress signal. But recognition is impossible at speed. More flak rises from a battery ahead. Black puffs bracket him. He banks sharply, threads between two farms, disappears from their view. The pursuers break off low fuel or orders to disengage. Hoover levels out, scans ahead. The emergency strip appears. Grass, windsock. Limp in the still air. He lines up, bleeds speed with flaps and throttle. Gear down. Touchdown is firm. The gear struts compress. Tires skid on damp earth. The FW-190 rolls to a stop in a cloud of dust and grass clippings. Ground troops surround the plane instantly. Rifles point. Voices shout. Hoover raises both hands. Palms open. American pilot? Escaped POW. Don't shoot. A sergeant steps forward. Weapon lowered slightly. He sees the dog tags. The familiar flight jacket. Stand down, the sergeant orders. Rifles. Drop. Hoover climbs out slowly, hands visible. He is debriefed on the spot to camp riot. The fence. The airfield. The takeoff. The evasion of interceptors. Intelligence officers arrive. Examine the aircraft. One of the few intact FW-190s captured late in the war. Bullet holes from friendly fire mark the wings and body. The fuel system leaks steadily. Hoover suffers only minor injuries. Torn hands from the wire. Bruises. Ringing ears. No broken bones. No serious wounds. The plane that carried him to safety is secured. Later studied and scrapped. The lesson is stark. Escape from captivity is only half the battle. The greater danger can come from those who should be allies. Hoover survived through exceptional piloting skill, low-level terrain masking, and sheer luck that no burst hit the engine or cockpit fatally. In those hours aloft, he flew not just an enemy aircraft, but a target in his own sights, and lived because he refused to give up. First Lieutenant Robert A. Bob Hoover stepped down from the wing of the Focke-Wulf FW-190 on the grass airstrip near Groningen. In late April 1945, the radial engine ticked as it cooled, leaking oil and coolant onto the damp earth. Bullet holes from friendly fire marked the wings and fuselage. Small, ragged reminders of how close the Allied guns had come. His hands bled from the barbed wire, his flight suit torn, but he stood steady as the infantry surrounded him. Rifles raised, then lowered when they saw the American dog tags, and heard his voice. Escaped POW. American pilot. The debrief came fast. Intelligence officers listened to every detail. The staged fight in the barracks, the sprint through the dark, the climb over the wire, the abandoned airfield, the unfamiliar cockpit, the takeoff without a parachute, the low-level flight through flak and interceptors. They examined the plane, one of the few intact FW-190s captured so late in the war, noted the German markings that had made it a target, and photographed the damage from its own side's fire. Hoover answered without drama. A fence climbed, an engine started, a flight completed. He did not return to combat. The war in Europe ended weeks later. Hoover went home, but the sky never released him. He became one of aviation's most legendary figures, testing captured enemy aircraft, pushing experimental jets to their limits, performing airshow routines that left crowds in awe. He flew the first flight of the F-100 Super Sabre, demonstrated the F-86 Sabre in ways no one else could, and earned the respect of men like Chuck Yeager, who called him the greatest stick-handler pilot alive. His skill was born in combat, sharpened in captivity, and proven on that stolen FW. The fighter he flew to freedom was studied, then likely scrapped or broken for parts. Just another relic among thousands. But the story remained. A prisoner who refused to wait for rescue, who took an enemy plane he had never flown, and flew it through a corridor of friendly fire to reach safety. The greatest threat had not been the guards or the barbed wire. It had been the Allies below the very people he was trying to reach, who saw only an enemy aircraft and opened fire. Hoover lived to 94, passing in 2016. His name is etched in aviation history, in museums, in books on test piloting, and in the memories of those who flew with him or watched him perform. He rarely told the escape story unless asked. And when he did, it was simply a fence climbed, an engine started, a flight completed. This is not a story of flawless heroism. It is one of calculated risk, raw skill, and the fragile line between liberation and destruction. In those hours aloft, Hoover flew not just a stolen plane, but a target painted by circumstance. He survived because his hands never faltered on the stick, because he flew lower than reason allowed, and because luck spared him when skill alone might not have been enough. The war took time, freedom, and friends from him, but it could not take the pilot inside. I've just said what's recorded in history. You should find out the real truth yourself. We have written the sources from which we got this story in the description of this video, and we have always been and will be supporters of the oppressed, regardless of their color, race, or country. This world and its creator are also with the oppressed. If this daring escape and the terrifying friendly fire left you stunned, smash that like button. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Would you have flown that plane? And subscribe for more forgotten World War II stories. Hit the bell so you never miss the next WW2 story.